Hi, and welcome to day 7 here at TorahFamilyLiving.com. Today is really good scripture. We're going to be in Ephesians chapter 2, verses 4 through 10. There's some really good stuff here. Kind of brings it all full circle of what Yahweh is explaining through his servant Shaul. That's just really kind of cool. So let's go and read, starting in verse 4 of chapter 2 of Ephesians, going through verse 10. But Elohim, who is rich in compassion, because of his great love with which he loved us, even when we were dead in trespasses, made us alive together with Messiah. By favor you have been saved, and raised us up together, and made us sit together in the heavenlies in Messiah Yahshua, in order to show in the coming ages the exciting and exceeding riches of his favor and kindness toward us in Messiah Yahshua. For by favor you have been saved through belief, and that not of yourselves, it is the gift of Elohim. It is not by works, so that no one should boast. For we are his workmanship, created in Messiah Yahshua unto good works, which Elohim prepared beforehand that we should walk in them. There's a lot to untie here and untangle and look at. It's not difficult if we just take our time and look at each word and phrase and how it's going and understanding in context of the whole letter. You remember that Shaul is writing this letter to the Ephesians, and in writing it, there were no chapters and verses. So it's difficult sometimes in our mindset, because the way we were taught to learn, we will take certain verses, extrapolate them out, and then just go with those verses. I want to cut all this out. This is an exciting passage of Scripture for us to look at. It brings to full circle everything that Shaul wants us to see here as far as what does our identity really look like in Messiah. We looked at some very specific things that we could do as far as praying for the brethren, but here it's showcasing that our identity is not in ourselves, and there's nothing for us to boast on that we have done anything to receive this free gift. In fact, this gift was pre-planned, it was preordained, it was predestined before the foundation of the earth that this plan would come into effect. But not just the plan of salvation, but how we were supposed to walk in that plan. And that's what he's saying here, which is really kind of cool. And we see all of this is because of the love that the Father has, which is immeasurable to even try to begin to understand. Why does God love me like he does? Now, there's no way that we could ever figure that out. But we can be eternally grateful, that's for sure. But we see that this gift that God had prepared ahead of time was prepared even knowing that we were going to be. We weren't even born yet. And yet we were born in our trespasses and sin. We were born with this sin nature. And even while we were in that state, even though before we even came to that state, God chose to make a plan to do this. And that's why he says here that we were dead in our trespasses and sins, and even though we were there, that God has prepared a way to redeem us from that. And why did he do that? Again, I want to reiterate, because this is the second time that we're seeing why God is doing this, why Yahweh the Father is doing this. In verse 7, he says, in order. I've created this plan, I've redeemed you and set into practice this plan to redeem you in order to show in the Olam Haba, in the coming ages, the exceeding riches of his favor in kindness towards us in Messiah, so that throughout eternity we will be the showcase of the magnitude of Yahweh's love and the magnitude of Yeshua's love, because of what they planned and what they did to redeem their very own creation, which they do not have to do, but they do so because they love us with unmeasurable love. That is the predominant beginning part of this that shows us in reflection of what eternity will be like. But right here in between, there's something else that takes place. It's very important, and sometimes we miss it, and it's twofold. So as we look down at verse 10, as we look at this gift that God is offering us. He says that it's a free gift. In verse 9, let me back up to verse 9. It's not by works. You can't do anything to earn it, to buy it, to pay for it. This is God's gift to us. It was His plan. And there's nothing that we can do or say to deserve it or buy it. In that way, nobody can boast. Look what I've done. I earned my way here. No, you did nothing. It's all Him. That way, in order, going back to verse 7, excuse me, that in the Olam Haba, in the ages to come, Yah gets all the glory. It's Him being lifted up and magnified. Verse 10, for we are His workmanship. All of this is so that He can showcase us. We are His workmanship, created in Messiah. Our identity has to be in Messiah. That's what He's working in and through us, to be like His Messiah. And we are done, it is done for us and done through us so that we will have good works. He said, in Messiah Yahshua, unto good works. So you have this free gift that's metamorphosizing us, changing us into the image of His Son, so that we can have good works. Why? In order to show in the coming ages the glory of God because of us and what He has done through us. And how do we do these good works, and what are these good works? Well, He tells us in verse 10, which Elohim, these good works, which Elohim prepared beforehand that we should walk in them. So He prepared them beforehand, and we are to walk in them. Very, very clear. So if He has prepared a plan before He created the heavens and the earth, and He created a way in which man could be redeemed, and it's a free gift, and in that we become workmanship. This is part of the plan, and now we are to have good works that He has showcased us, so He can showcase us that these good works will help us to identify in Messiah Yahshua. He prepared those beforehand, and we are to walk in them. This is not Old Testament. This is the New Testament. This is the newer testament that's reflecting on and validating all of the works in the Old Testament and the Tanakh. Shaul is saying here that not only did God create a plan in the beginning, and that plan is Messiah, and our identity is in Him, so that in eternity future we will be able to showcase, we will be the showcase of His glory. This is what Yah has done. He didn't create something and then have to destroy it. Just like it's the same God principle. We see God had the right, and should have by all means, destroyed Israel at Mount Sinai because of their spiritual adultery with the golden calf. He could have destroyed them and was going to. Or maybe He was just testing Moses, just maybe a nugget to think about. But he could have done that, but He didn't, for His namesake, for His glory. So we are, and again, going back to one of our previous lessons that we looked at, or thoughts that we were looking at, that we are to showcase His glory, that we are to be the praise in which eternity shows this. And in conclusion, in our thought process here, for you to spend some time thinking about today, what are these plans, these ways that we're to walking that have already been established beforehand? If you don't know what they are, we need to spend some time trying to figure that out, and spend some time learning on how to walk in them, because this is part of the whole process of salvation. This is part of what Paul is talking about when he says working out your own salvation. Well, I hope you had a blessed day, and until next time, blessings.